a day this is. The sun is shining down here on Harry Uhlman today, that's for sure. Thank you, God, for making such a beautiful day. Are our elected officials here? We're waiting for Senator Collins to come, but he can join us when he gets here. This has been a year in the making, ladies and gentlemen, where Robert Passetti, Kenny Ryan, Nick Collins, and Linda Dorsina-Fori, she was in the Senate at the time, Robert Passetti and Ken Ryan in particular, decided to, came up with this idea to honor Harry Uhlman with this bandstand. And what came with that was the opportunity to kind of renovate and rejuvenate this bandstand, which was built, and we have the Commissioner Roy from DCR, which was built back in 1949. So this is and it's an historic, it's on the Boston landmarks. This was formerly the City of Boston land, and it was transferred to DCR long ago to the state. But it still remains on the Boston Landmarks Commission. It'll be forever on the Landmarks Commission and forever known as the Harry Uhlman Bandstand at Marine Park here in South Boston. I always used to say, why spend a week in Martinique if you can spend a day at Pleasure Bay? That was my saying for a long period of time. And now we can say, we'll change it a little bit. Why spend a week in Martinique when you can spend a day at Harry Uhlman's Bandstand at Marine Park on Pleasure Bay? So we'll get the program going. Look at the crowd here. There are so many people that are here to celebrate with us, but also to say thank you to Harry. And there'd be more people here today, but there's a funeral that the mayor is at, and I know a number of other people that were supposed to be here. Patty Marr, Eddie Marr's wife, she's Patty Murphy, formerly from Savin Hill, passed away, and her funeral is this morning. So let us first have a moment of silence for Patty Marr, who was well known in this neighborhood. Thank you, and I would have to say, too, that we should have a moment of silence for one of Harry's best friends that hasn't been around for a while, but he was always with Harry, especially on all those trips that he went on with the St. Brendan's crowd and the Southie crowd, the mixture, the Southie Dorchester thing. Harry kind of brought the two neighborhoods together back in the old days. But Father Jim Lane was a great friend of Harry, and if he was alive, and he'd be with us today, but certainly he's here in spirit. So our memories and our thoughts go out to Father Lane as well. With that, let me bring up Father Robert Casey, who everybody here knows is the pastor of the Gate of Heaven and St. Bridget's parishes, to give a blessing and maybe to even christen the Harry Uhlman Bandstand here at Marine Park in South Boston. Please give a warm round of applause for Father Casey.
Let us pray. And God, our Father, we give you thanks today for this beautiful day. First of all, we give you thanks for this park and this bandstand for the enjoyment of all who visit this place. We give you thanks in a special way for Harry Uhlman this morning, for his generous and humble service to so many in South Boston and beyond. St. Mother Teresa had a saying that hopefully all of us can live up to in this life. She said that none of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love. Today we give thanks to Harry, who did so many big and small things with great love. And in the eyes of so many, they were great things. God smiles on those whose lives are dedicated to the service of others, and God is smiling on Harry today. We ask you, God, to bless this bandstand as it is used to renew our spirits Bless the musical sounds that come from here as a sign of your creation and blessing upon us. May our enjoyment here always keep us mindful of the joy that we are to bring to others and be of service to others with humility, kindness, and small acts of love, like Harry. Bless this gathering and dedication and keep us always in your care and protection. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Father Casey. Back in, I think it was 1950. 1950, Harry. Was that when you graduated? That was when did you graduate from South Boston High?
What year did you get out of South High? What year did you graduate?
He can't remember.
51.
In 1951, so I think it was the year 1950. It was probably in the fall of that year. The Southie High basketball team won the state championship at the Boston Garden. And the Herald Traveler at the time had a headline about the team, and the headline read this way: Southie is wild about Harry. That's what the headline read, because Harry was not only a great basketball player back in those days, but and he tells me he was a better football player than he was basketball. But that was the headline: Southie is wild about Harry. And here we are 68 years later. And I would say, based on the people that are here today and the people that love Harry so much, that Southie in this neighborhood is still wild about Harry Uhlman. So we're going to, and certainly, I and my family owe so much to Harry. And I don't know, we have a long speaking program, so we don't want to go on for too long here, but we can get into that, I suppose, over the course of the next few minutes or so. But the governor was hoping to be here. He got called away. But his commissioner of DCR, which governs this park here, is here. He's the commissioner of DCR, Leo Roy, and he would like to welcome you on behalf of the governor. So please give a nice round of applause for Commissioner Leo Roy.
Thank you, Jack. I bring you greetings of Governor Charlie Baker and Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito. You probably know that they've been occupied for the last couple of weeks since that horrible tragedy up in the Merrimack Valley in Lawrence and North Andover and Andover. Can you imagine being first ejected from your home because it's on fire or at risk of explosion, and then when you finally get back a few days later into your home, you can't take a shower, you can't cook, you can't do your laundry. So the governor and lieutenant governor have really been dedicated with all of their senior leadership team from the administration up there trying to help those people, because we're noticing that it's a beautiful day today, but the nights are getting a little cooler, and we want to make sure we're bringing some relief to those people as soon as possible. So I bring you greetings in his absence and lieutenant governor's absence. We believe in the administration a lot about partnerships, because we know that we at the state or the city can't do things by themselves. But great things like this happen because it's people working together. We've got a great working relationship with the City of Boston, with your elected delegation, the inspiration of Nick Collins, a great working relationship. And it's the contributions of individuals that make such a difference. This was volunteer labor that brought this bandstand back. And it's going to be a team effort in this community to fill it with music night after summer evening night, as a tremendous legacy to Harry Uhlman and the contribution and the individual gifts that he's given to this community for decades. That music is going to continue emanating from this place for many years to come in celebration of the work that he's done. The administration has made lots of investments in recent years. Murphy Rink completely redone, and you know we're just doing some work on Day Boulevard just behind us here to try and improve the safety there. The people at DCR care about this place and these parks as much as all of you do. They care for it and keep it in great shape. It's a wonderful partnership and continued investments by the administration. Finally, I'd like to let you know that this is a special year for the DCR. We're 125 years old this year. We were founded in 1893 to save some trees on the Belmont-Waltham line, the Waverly Oaks. And back then, it was a new idea to set aside open space and parks. But some individuals got together because they were concerned about suburban sprawl and too much traffic. Can you imagine in 1893, if they came back today, what would they see? But it was two individuals, Charles Eliot and Sylvester Baxter, who petitioned the legislature, again in partnership, to create what was then called the Metropolitan Parks Commission. It was a new idea that had never happened before to create a regional park system. And of course that idea has been emulated all across the country and all around the world, protecting these open spaces, and not just the ones that you enjoy here, but as you go west, down to the Cape, out to Mount Greylock and the forests and mountains and parks and watersheds that belong to all of you. Those individuals, just like the individuals we're celebrating here today, made a difference, and you can all make a difference, and you do make a difference in your own lives. So this park system belongs to all of you, and I hope that as summer turns to fall and fall to winter, you go out and explore not just the treasures that you have in front of you, but those other treasures that are your DCR parks across the state. I hope that as the months continue, you have an opportunity to find yourself in a DCR park. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I'd also, I was remiss in not mentioning Harry Uhlman's family. And there's an extended family here today. And I would ask them all to stand. I know Michael came in from California, and there are other folks in from outside of Boston. So could we ask Harry's family, extended family, to please stand up so we can give you a nice round of applause for allowing us to have Harry in our lives, and for sharing him with us over the years, the many years. Thank you. Robert Bassetti, as I mentioned, and Kenny Ryan had this idea to name this after Harry Uhlman, but in doing so, there had to be this renovation. And as Commissioner Roy just mentioned a moment ago, it was all volunteer, and bolstered by not only Nick Collins' piece of legislation, which formally changed it statutorily, the name of this to Harry Uhlman Bandstand. But the mayor of the city was an extraordinary, of extraordinary value in kind of restoring, rejuvenating this bandstand. But this was all volunteer. There wasn't any money that was paid to anybody to do this. And Robert Bassetti, the mayor, and Kenny Ryan in particular, and the DCR folks helped as well, went out and they got some people to volunteer their time, contractors and volunteers and that sort of thing. And I'd just like to mention them if I could, after the plane goes over ahead. The painting was done by, Best Painting by Bill Best and Eddie Marr. That's Eddie Marr's wife's funeral is this morning. Bostonian Excavation, Kevin Kelly. Homelight, Paul Eastman. Marr Scaffolding, Dan Marr and Jay Hoban. New England Restoration, Frank LeConte, Tony Palilia, Chris Saccone, Roy Reese, and Kyle Penheel. PPG Painting, Turner Construction, Pat Hannigan from Turner, and Northern Contractors. Now here's how Robert Bassetti works his magic. He called somebody at the last minute, and Northern Construction came down this morning and planted the flowers and did this landscaping right here in front of this bandstand. Just this morning for Harry Uhlman, without pay. That was the work of Robert Bassetti, Kenny Ryan, and all the people. Let's give them a round of applause for the extraordinary work that made this bandstand what it is today. So what you're going to see people not only from this town, but you're going to see people from all over the place that'll come here for their wedding pictures and first communions and all that sort of thing. And we owe it all to the volunteers and the mayor, Kenny Ryan, and Robert Bassetti. So thanks very much for that. Next up, we'll bring up, I know the mayor, as I mentioned, is at the funeral. He's going to try to get here. But next up, we'll bring up Nick Collins, Senator Collins, who filed this legislation over a year ago and got every member of the legislature, spoke about this on the floor in the House and then in the Senate as well, to get this through, all in honor of our friend Harry Uhlman. So please give a great round of applause to our friend and the hero of this Harry Uhlman event here in the legislature, Senator Nick Collins.
Thank you, Jack. It's great to be with Jack today. When Robert and Kenny asked to start this initiative, the first person I called was Jack. I know how close that he and Harry are and their families, and as a mentor of mine, I watched their relationship when I worked for Jack. So I met Harry about a little more than 10 years ago, and learned a lot about what he had been doing, and not just working with and really helping build the South Boston Special Kids Program, but his advocacy on behalf of veterans and seniors, and doing it in a way that was enjoyable and fun. So it's fitting that we're here today to honor Harry, to name the bandstand, where so many of us have enjoyed here in Marine Park. Before I read the legislation that we passed, I do want to thank the Commissioner of DCR. I don't think we've had a stronger partnership, at least in my time in the legislature, than we have right now with the Baker administration, the Baker-Polito administration, and the DCR. Some significant investments that we haven't seen in a long time. As you mentioned, $6 million to renovate the rink, 2.5 already putting out for road repairs on Day Boulevard and badly needed. So we want to thank the Commissioner again for your partnership. So honoring Harry today is honoring his commitment. And in the legislature, they don't just honor people because they know someone, they honor them for their service. And before I read this, I also want to recognize a good friend of ours who's here today, who recently elected in September for his 8th election as our clerk of Suffolk Superior Court. And I just want to recognize Mike Donovan here, who's with us today, for his commitment to our community. So on March 22nd, the Senate and the House of Representatives in our general court assembled, and by authority of the same, enacted as follows: that the bandstand located at Marine Park on William J. Day Boulevard in the South Boston section of the City of Boston, and under the care and control of the Department of Conservation and Recreation, shall be designated and known as the Harry G. Uhlman Jr. Bandstand, in honor of Harry G. Uhlman Jr., who has helped veterans, seniors, and people with disabilities in South Boston for decades. The department shall erect and maintain a suitable marker bearing that designation in compliance with the standards of the department, signed by the Speaker of the House, the Senate President, and the Governor of the Commonwealth, Charlie Baker. Harry, we're all lucky to have you, and want to pay tribute to you today. Thank you for all you do, and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Senator Collins. And our next speaker will be my former colleague. He's been on the city council now as a citywide city councilor for 18, 20? Not long enough, he says. For another 20 more. So somebody that was heavily involved with this project as well, and works on our behalf around the city, and our great friend and neighbor. Please give a nice round of applause for my friend and colleague, Michael Flaherty, City Councilor.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Jack. It's great to be here on behalf of my colleagues on the council, the South Boston community, but I'm particularly proud to be here on behalf of a few people who can't be here because they've passed, and that's my Aunt Sissy, my Uncle Bibby, and my cousin Mary Jane. So on behalf of the Flaherty and the Divine family, this is obviously a special day for us because of the relationship that we have all had with Harry. I think Harry would admit that his introduction to the South Boston Special Kids happened at my Aunt Sissy's kitchen table. And boy, did she land a giant for that cause. And his selflessness in support of not just the South Boston Special Kids, but St. Coletta's, Simon of Cyrene, and so many different organizations in this community. It's what makes this community the greatest neighborhood in the country, which is people like Harry Uhlman. So to know that his name is going to be affixed to a true treasure here in South Boston. And when you think about this, Jack had alluded to it, people come down here and take pictures of their family with their christenings. My kids have had their prom pictures down here. There's been wedding pictures down here. People come down for respite just to look at the beautiful Pleasure Bay, and to know that a beautiful guy that's worked so hard and so selfless on behalf of others will be affixed to this structure for forever is truly an amazing thing for this community and for Harry and for his great family. And last, a lot of folks know that Harry has had his fair share of health ailments over the years, and one thing that I'll always remember about Harry is I'll be driving around the neighborhood, and I'll see Harry, and I'm thinking that maybe he's looking for a ride, and I knew he wouldn't be feeling well, and I'd say, Harry, everything okay? Do you need a ride? And he'd usually have an envelope in his hand, and it could be a card or it could be cash. I never asked, but he'd be going to someone else's house, not feeling well himself, struggling with some of his own health issues, and I'd say, well, where are you going? And he'd say, I'm going to so-and-so's house. They're not feeling well. I have a get well card. Or I'm going to so-and-so's house. They're a little down on their luck. I have a little touch for them. And that's what Harry Uhlman's been about his whole life. And so whether it started at my Aunt Sissy's kitchen table or it just was who he was growing up in this neighborhood and being around such great people and great families, he's made a world of a difference. And it's going to be great to know that this jewel is going to be dedicated to a real gem of a guy. So congratulations, Harry. Congratulations to Harry's family. And congratulations to the South Boston community.
Thank you very much, Michael, Councilor Flaherty. And I can sing a similar tune. Speaking of tunes, the other day it was Harry's birthday. He turned 39, I believe. He turned 86 the other day. He needs a translator, Harry does. We're trying to get him the information. So he turned 86 the other day, and I thought we'd sing happy birthday to him. So why don't we do that? You all have to join in. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Harry. Happy birthday to you. I guess we could go on and say, how old are you now? But I don't think he wants to. I don't think he wants to mention that. Like I said, I was the beneficiary myself. When my father and Harry were great friends over the years. I remember when I was first thinking about running for office, my father was sick. He was in the hospital at the time, and actually, my father actually passed away shortly after I was sworn into the House. So he was in the hospital when I decided, I was thinking about running for state rep at the time back in 1996. And that was 22 years ago. And I remember Harry came into the hospital with me, and he was telling me that he was going to support me, and we talked to my father about it. My father asked if Harry would take care of me. Would he help me? And Harry said, sure, you can put my name on everything. I'll be your treasurer. And I know a lot of people out there, he said, and my father said, good, but pat him on the back when he needs it, and give him a kick in the pants when he needs it too. And sure enough, Harry did kick me in the pants on a few occasions. But Harry, to this day, I still have people that approach me. To this day, the people that approach me that say, you know what, I didn't know you when you first ran, or sometimes people say, I don't even really know you now, but I knew Harry Uhlman, and when Harry Uhlman asked me to vote for you, I did. And that's the kind of that's the kind of reputation that he has, that he was able to convince people to vote for me that in some cases still haven't met me. So thank you, Harry, so much for that support and all you've done in the neighborhood. The final thing I'll just say about that was, so my father, before he was in the hospital that time, my father was at home on oxygen, and as Michael mentioned, Harry was often dropping by people's houses to drop him a card and that sort of thing. And Harry would call my father maybe once a week and say, let's get out of the house. Harry was fairly healthy at the time, my father being on oxygen. So he would take my father out for lunch, and I thought, boy, isn't that great? What a great friendship they have, and what a kind act that Harry would do to get my father out of the house and go over to maybe Florian Hall for lunch. But what I came to understand was that Harry was not only doing that with my father, he was doing that with dozens and dozens and dozens of other people throughout the course of the summer that year. And that's just the kind of person that Harry is. He's an extraordinary man that is so selfless. He gives of himself every single day. So anyway, Harry wants me to quit talking. So even though he's getting every other word, if he's getting any of it all. Our next person to speak is City Councilor Ed Flynn. Ed was just elected a year ago, And I know that he's working hard because I see him out in the neighborhood here in South Boston. But I heard some people recently talking about him over in the South End, how omnipresent he is and how great of a job that he's doing working hard for the people throughout his district in the South End as well. So he's doing a great job for us. Please give a nice round of applause for City Councilor Ed Flynn.
Thank you, Senator, and it's an honor for me to be here with Harry and with Harry's family. And I was thinking of what to say, and I know Harry did an outstanding job as Chief Court Officer at Suffolk Superior Court. I also know Harry did an outstanding job working for the Boston Edison. But when I think of Harry, I always think of the work he does helping our special needs children. I see them down at the Southie Yacht Club all the time. I see them bowling, going to cookouts. But it's the way Harry talks to them. He looks them in the face, he looks them in the eye, shakes their hand. He treats them with respect. It's something I'll never forget, just the way he treats everybody with dignity, respect, and compassion. So this town is lucky to have a neighbor like Harry. I do have an official proclamation that I won't read, but it basically says, thank you to Harry for your dedicated service of helping so many people. It's signed by myself and Michael Flaherty, but also another wonderful woman that's in the audience, as well as Maureen Feeney from Dorchester, who's the city clerk. But on behalf of the City Council, on behalf of this neighborhood, we just want to say thank you to Harry for being there for everybody, especially those people that need our help. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. There's also another former elected official, former ambassador and mayor of the city of Boston. Ray Flynn will come up here in a moment. But I also wanted to point out the former Senate president from this neighborhood who served in such a distinguished way for so many years and actually brought so much money here over the course of his political career to this beautiful place we call Castle Island and Pleasure Bay. Please give a great round of applause to former Senate President Bill Bulger, who's here with his wife, Mary. Next up, you heard Michael Flaherty mention him before. He's the longest serving, maybe we shouldn't say that these days. He's the longest serving, and he's the longest serving clerk of the Superior Civil Court for a reason. He was actually a law school professor of mine at New England Law, and that was the class that everybody wanted to go and take because it was such a great class on civil procedure, but also he was such a great professor and mentor to so many kids in law school at the time. So he's is the longest serving clerk of the Superior Civil Court, and he's our friend, and we hope that he stays there for another 40 years or so. Please give a nice round of applause to our friend Michael Donovan.
Hey, thank you very much. They're all giants up here ahead of me, so I hope you can hear me. I'd like first just to give another shout out to all the special kids that are here, and we could say if there was a headline today, the kids are crazy about Harry and he's crazy about them. Thank you, all you boys and girls, young men and women, for all of your help today. And yes, Jack Hutt was the brightest student I've had in 35 years. Thank you so much, Jack. I noticed while the other speakers were up, not me yet, but the planes were going ahead and drowning them out, and they were reading the list of all the unions and businesses that helped everybody. The only union they couldn't get was the airline pilots. We tried to get them to go somewhere else, but that's all right. There's only a few of them here. You've heard all about Harry, his accomplishments, all his good deeds. Oh, by the way, Harry, I'll leave my address if you have another one of those envelopes going somewhere. All right? I just want to say what I know everybody out there feels in their heart and soul. And we don't always get it, you know. We don't know if it's a manly thing or an adult thing to do, but sometimes we get a little shy or embarrassed. So let me be the one to say it, because, you know, I don't duck anything. You know, those who know me, those who have been to the meetings, though, I'm right up front. Whatever you've got, I can take it. But, Harry, let me just say this to you. I'm so darn proud and pleased that you allow me to call myself your friend because you make me a better person for it. Thank you, Harry. Congratulations.
Thank you. But we have about another hour and a half worth of speaking, so get the suntan lotion out for people that are not under the tent. Just kidding. We have a couple more, and then we'll let you move on. We have I guess he's still a candidate for all intents and purposes, but David Beal won the Democratic primary for state representative, which was the seat that Nick Collins had left to move to the Senate. And do you have an opponent? Yeah. He doesn't have an opponent, but so if he gets one vote, he wins in November. But he's a young guy that's worked with in Senator Collins' office. He knows the neighborhood. He's from O and Third, P and Second. That's all the same to me. But I'm a G Street guy. But he's been heavily involved in so many things in this neighborhood, and he deserves the opportunity based on his record and the fact that he won in September to represent us in the State House. And I'll call him, even though he's not formally elected yet or sworn in, but I'll call him Representative David Beal. Please give a nice round of applause for David.
Thank you, Senator Hart, and thank you everybody for coming out here today. It's a beautiful day as we honor a friend of South Boston, Harry Uhlman and the Uhlman family. You've given so much to this neighborhood. Harry's, given 40 years of service to the neighborhood, another 25 years for the South Boston Special Kids and Young Adults program. I got to know Harry the last few years, helping out with the program, and he sets a great example. It's somebody I aspire to be like, and I'm just very honored to be a part of the ceremony here as we honor his legacy. So Harry, on behalf of the neighborhood, thank you so much for everything that you do. This is long overdue, and congratulations.
There are two other people that I'd just like to recognize, or businesses. Doughboy Donuts in Delhi donated the coffee and the food over here on the right-hand side. So thank you to Doughboy Donuts. And make sure you grab yourself a cup of coffee and take a couple of donuts home, maybe. And also, Norman Crump I don't know if he's here, but Norman Crump, according to Robert Passetti, where's Norman? There's Norman. As I understand it, Norman, you're going to be putting a portrait together of the bandstand, and he's going to present it to Harry when he's finished. So Norman Crump, our resident artist here in South Boston, please deserves a great round of applause. Thank you so much, Norman. Our next speaker is the former ambassador to the Vatican. He should be up here so he doesn't have to kind of make his way here, but we all remember Ray Flint and admire Ray Flint for not only the 10 years that he served as mayor during a very difficult time in Boston's history. From 1983 to 1993, Boston was still healing in the process of trying to heal after the busing crisis of the 1970s. And Ray came in and spent 10 years as the mayor and really took this city into the next phase of its life by really bringing communities together. As you remember, when he was in office, he was often found, rather than being in City Hall on the 5th floor, he was always out in the neighborhoods playing basketball in Roxbury, Mattapan, Southie, JP, all over the place. An all-American basketball player from Providence, ambassador to the Vatican, and an old friend, or longtime friend, I should say, a longtime friend of Harry Uhlman. Please give a great round of applause to our friend, Ambassador Ray Flynn. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I didn't expect to speak here today, but since I was invited, I'm honored to say a couple of things about Harry Uhlman. I look at the audience here, and I got here a little bit early, Kathy and I had a chance to talk to many of you. You could easily get up here, and address this audience with the same degree of admiration and love for Harry Uhlman as I am trying to do here today. I guess looking around, I see a lot of old friends of this town and of Harry. I guess I go back really 70 years with Harry. His wife and I lived in the same house, family, in South Boston. And I was a great admirer of his as a basketball player and as a football player. I think I was his strongest supporter at Southie High School when he was playing basketball. And I used to be the water boy for the Chippewas and for the Chapman Club, so I used to find my way around town supporting all these different programs. But I just want to share for some of the younger people here that may not know Harry, and you're hearing remarkable stories about what he's been doing the last 10, 15 years. Well, I want to tell you something that had a big impression on my life. When I was growing up, after getting cut from professional basketball ranks, I came back here and I wanted to start an athletic program. That was my life vocation, not politics, but sports, and working with kids. And I saw that there were a lot of kids. We didn't know anything about drugs growing up, but I saw the influence of drugs coming into the community, coming into our society, in fact. And so I decided that I wanted to start a basketball program in the city. And it later became the Boston Neighborhood Basketball League. And we started it right here in South Boston. It still exists, the program, across the city. And my earliest supporter, this is before Kevin White was mayor, John Collins was mayor. And my earliest supporter was Harry Uhlman. I went to Harry because he had a great reputation as an athlete. He was very active in the unions, and he was very much respected in the community. And Harry was one of my earliest sponsors for the youth basketball program in South Boston, which later became a citywide program. And when I look up at that Vietnam Memorial, as we did a couple of weeks ago, I look at the names on that memorial, and there were four of those kids that were in that program playing the basketball league to keep them active, keep them off the streets, make them productive, viable citizens of this community and this country. Four of those names are kids that played in our basketball league that got killed in Vietnam. Well, that's not the end of it. When we started the softball program for the kids returning from Vietnam, so they'd have something to do on hot summer nights. Harry was one of my first sponsors for the softball league here in South Boston in starting it. So there's a history that you need to know about Harry Uhlman, and the history is one of giving to the community. And he never really looked for that kind of notoriety or attention, and many of you did. That's not why you supported these programs and these kids, the special needs, all these different areas of interest that Harry took a cause to. I mean, I'm going to end, but I just want you to know, particularly the younger people, these are the stories that made this town great and will always remain great. It's because of people like Harry McDonough and people like the old timers that gave so much to this town and to the young people. And so in honoring Harry Uhlman here today, I have to think about all the other people, the George McCarthys, the Mocha Mahoneys, the Indians, and all those other people that gave so much to the young people of this community. And I look around and I see some of those young people now have grown up. They're fathers, they're productive citizens, they're police officers, they're firefighters, they're wonderful people. And it's people like Harry Uhlman that made it all possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ambassador. And the gentleman that we all know that escorted the mayor up here is our former fire commissioner, Paul Christian. Please give a nice round of applause to former South Bostonian fire commissioner and South Bostonian. Harry, remember when Harry owned the Farragut House? Everybody remembers that? Harry, people have talked before earlier today about Harry dropping off envelopes at people's houses, and when Harry was at the Farragut House, he was always taking care of the waitress staff there, and the cooks who might have needed a little bit of extra money for the rent or what have you. So he was obviously very generous at the restaurant, and the restaurant was successful with Roger Gill and Barbara Gill, who was running it with Harry at the time, because people wanted to go there because of Harry Uhlman and Roger. They wanted to be there, they wanted to be in his presence because he made such a big deal of them, and it was just a joyous place when Harry owned the Farragut House for over 10 years. But Harry was telling me a story at one point that there was an elderly couple, this was years ago, and I suppose that they're not in the audience today, I hope. But Harry was telling me that there was an elderly couple that used to come in every Friday night. I'll wait for them. Every Friday night they would come in, and they would, halfway through their meal, they would tell the waitress that the meal was not very good and they wanted to send it back. So the first time that happened, Harry said, oh my God, he sat down with them and he gave them another meal and he didn't charge them. And then the next Friday night came and they did it again. Harry can't hear me. So after 3 or 4 times, Harry said, and it's probably one of the few times that he ever did something like this. He owned the L Street Tavern prior to that with Billy O'Neill, who's here, and Roger Gill back in the day. But he ended up, when they came back a subsequent Friday night, maybe for the 4th, 5th, 8th, 9th time, maybe, I'm not sure what it was. They ate half the meal. They called the waitress over. They wanted to talk to the manager, and Harry came over and said, hey, this is the 8th time that you've done this to me. Get the heck out of here. You're not welcome back here anymore. That was probably the only time that Harry ever treated a customer like that. But he said, here's this elderly couple that was making me look like a fool, for God's sakes. But anyway, so we're going to bring up Harry now. One of Harry's legacies Harry's legacies are many things. Certainly his family, all of whom are here. But one of his biggest legacies, in my opinion, is working over the course of the past 27 years with the special kids. It's an extraordinary thing that he does, not only spending time with the kids, and he talks all the time about his girls that do so much for the special kids, that volunteer their time. Raising money, taking them bowling. He used to take them to Eastover, taking a whole group of kids out to Eastover, again with the help of Cheryl and Barbara and Kelly and so many more. It is, in my opinion, it's what Harry's legacy is. And my mother actually thought that, she gave me a little quote here today. And she's my mother, so I have to read it. And she's over there, sitting over there to the left. Because she thought this sums up who Harry Uhlman is. And at the end, we'll bring Harry up to say a few words. But this is how this quote reads. 100 years from now, it won't matter what your bank account was, what sort of house you lived in, and it won't matter what kind of car you drove. But the world may be different. The world may be better because you were important in the life of a child. That is the essence of Harry Uhlman. That's why you see all these kids here today cheering for Harry, and when they see him, he just lights up their lives. There are so many things that he's he can take credit for it, and he doesn't want the credit. He didn't even want this thing to happen today. He does things not because he wants credit. He does it because he does these things because it's the right thing to do, and his legacy will live on forever, not only through the special kids and in their lives, and all of us, but also here at this iconic and historic place at Marine Park. So let's give a great round of applause and a great welcome of celebration to Harry Uhlman, our great friend.
A lot of lies you said. Yeah. You know, I always tell people the only thing that works for me now is my eyesight. I can't hear anymore, so I know the boys just told a lot of lies. Anyways, I'm going to get over it kind of quick. I want to tell you, they talk about football and basketball. I get a little privilege today. The captain of the great Tom Joe Sullivan, he was the captain of the high school football team. He later became the captain of Boston College. Tom Joe Sullivan, that I played ball with in 1950 and 51 up Southie High, he's here someplace.
Here he is. Over there, Harry.
Yeah, okay. And then I was very fortunate. I played for Southie's basketball team. In 1951, we were undefeated. And we had to play English high school over the Boston Garden. And the star of English high school that time was a kid from South Boston. He was a trader. He went to English instead of going to Southie. But anyways, we played each other before the first East-West All-Star game ever, the pros, the Cousy, Mackay. And would you believe is he's sitting here today, Cal Klump. Yeah. And the other kid that is surprised today, in 1952 when I played for the Saunders Post, the Senior Park League, back years ago, the Park League was big. We used to outdraw the colleges. And in 1952, the Saunders Post, we played the East Boston Tornadoes at Fenway Park. And the quarterback of that team was a kid named Mike Flaherty, who later went to work for the government. And today, he came up and introduced himself. It's the first time I've seen him since 1952. So Mike Flaherty's out here someplace. That was a surprise. Anyways, I used to be kind of healthy. About 2 years ago, I went in the hospital, 17 days. I went in there at 175, and I come out 140 pounds. They took so much water out of me. I told the doctors in the old days that would have been beer you were taking out of me. But anyways, let's get back to why I'm here. They said we got to name something after the bandstand. That old bastard's been around a long time. Let's name it Harry. They flipped a coin. Anyway, so, you know, I love the people of Southie and all the people I grew up with. I just want to tell you, I remember when my brother got operated on when he was only about 4 or 5 months old, and my mother had to stay with him in the hospital. And I remember I grew up on Ellen 3rd Street, and all the neighbors, I remember coming over and saying to my father, no, I'm going to feed you. I'm going to feed him tomorrow. I'm going to feed him the next day. They argued about, and that was 1939. That's right, the Depression time, when everybody had a hard time. And, but I remembered it so distinctly, like the Lynch family only lived about 3 doors away from me. Across the street was the Kennedys. They had 2 priests in that family. Rocky Kearns up the street, and he had a brother, a priest too. And what a beautiful neighborhood. They were absolutely fighting, and this is 80 years later, I can remember everybody lived on the opposite side of the street, going up the street. They're just beautiful people in the old days, helping each other out. And then, thank God, then I got a job with the Edison Company. I worked for a living at one time. A lot of people don't know that. I climbed poles. Imagine the wintertime climbing poles. That was me for 18 years. But a lady that started me off with the special kids, that great Sissy Flaherty. Her name was Sissy Flaherty Divine. And so she said, Harry, will you help me sell some chances for the special kids down in St. Coletta's down in Hanover, Braintree at that time? And I said, of course. So that's what I started doing, selling chances. And I did it for quite a few years for Sissy. What a beautiful woman she was. God rest her soul. And then shortly after that, 1958, the AFL-CIO was separated. And at the Hotel Bradford that year, 1958, they put them together. And I met guys like Mike Ryan from the MTA union, Charlie Spillane from the cement finishers, Tommy McIntyre from the bricklayers union. And after talking to John Madden from the Edison Company, and he's a Savin Hill guy, and he said, Harry, your job, you get involved in politics, your job is to help people. So thank God I became the vice president and the secretary treasurer, and I did push the hospitalization plan. Never thinking that I'd eat it so much myself later on. But thank God we were able to help a lot of people with that hospitalization plan. And then just, you know, just people that are always over here helping each other. I remember back years ago, Patty Barry, let's help her out. She gets sick, she was a young girl. Eddie Morrissey, big time at the Armory. And I see everybody pitching in over here. And that's what the name of the game is, helping each other. And now that I get involved with the special kids, I don't want to talk too long, but because you heard enough lies already, that the special kids came along, and there was great people, Kathy Morrison and Carol Gary and Maureen Shea and Steve and McCall Conley and a lady named Flo, and God almighty, they were breaking me and showing me how to help kids. And then about 6, 7 years later, thank God I was in a position to help them. They had a big time for me back, I don't know, 20 years ago. Marie Butler and Claire Williams and Father Lane, my old buddy. And after all expenses, they gave me $25,000. And then after that, we put it into an account and we helped different things here. But now we're taking the kids up to Eastover. And that was $6,000, $7,000 a year. We went up there for 3 years. And now, on account of they closed, the only place we could find to help take care of the special kids and treat them to a weekend, or we take them away for the weekend, we found a place in New Hampshire, which is more expensive. But people have been so good that giving us money all the time. You're talking the great Dodo Nee and Edzo Foley and then you get Bobby Lenahan and what do you call it? You want to talk, my nephews and nieces have given us, they've given us over $10,000, even though they live in Weymouth. On behalf of their mother, they gave us over $10,000. You get, but the Flahertys have been good. Sean used to run a party down the Yacht Club, and Tommy, and then the Hart family, the Lenahan, the Flahertys, all the people involved in politics. And thank God now we get a guy going to take my place, Bob Passetti over there. Thank God we get a guy like him ready to take my place. But I see people sitting here. I see a couple right here. I bet you they gave me $100 for the last 20 years. When you start thinking, that's $2,000 they gave me. And I'm so proud of Bob and Pat there. And the guy that lives in the second house up here, my old buddy, he's giving me money every year for 20, 25 years. So that's what helps us, not the big money. The big money does help when we take them up there. But all the people here, especially the people of the South Boston Yacht Club, my God, have they been good. They've been getting collections going on for years and years. And then one guy, on behalf of his mother, in his mother's name, when he's 50 years old, he said, I'm going to run 50 miles from the Cape to Quincy. And everybody said, well, yeah, he's going to run for benefit of money. And he did. The commissioner, Billy Evans, gave him a police car. 3 of his friends that were cops. They went down the Cape, and he ran 50 miles at 50 years old to the Marina Bay. Ricky Coyne, that's his name. And anyways, he collected $28,000. And then about a month later, we were over there, and the special kids like Ricky here, and we have about 16 people bowling every Sunday down in the yacht club. And so anyways, come over one day, and he said, Harry, you can use it more than anybody for these kids. They gave me $20,000. So that's but now we want to talk today. I talk about the old timers. I got to talk to you about the girls right here. And I want them to raise their hand. Back about 6, 7 years ago, I was down there watching a baseball game. And all of a sudden, Shovel Flaherty, Barbara O'Dwyer, and Kelly Donovan come down there and went, hey, Harry, this is in May. We're going to start helping you with the special kids come September. Oh, isn't that nice? When they walked away, I said, I'll need a search warrant to go get them. But came September, they came. They brought Laurie Lenahan down with them, Kelly, Marianne Clark, Mary Sheehan, Marilyn keeps score every Sunday, Jen Mannon. They did, and then the boys, Nikki back here, Nikki and Nikki Morrill and Stewie. Oh, there they are. There's 2 of them. Stewie there. One kid's a fish. I can't think of his real name. Just like a lot of guys. And then there's George Brennan back there. He's helped about 20 years now. And Rocky Bonanno, he's been around 15 years helping. So these people, they can't do the work unless you people keep giving us money. You know, it's whether it's $25 or $50. You get the big people, but we need that small thing to come in. You're talking dedication. Nobody on that special kids is on the payroll. Everybody is volunteer. They put out a schedule there last week, and I'm looking at it, oh my God. Every Sunday for 9 months, they're going to be down there. They're going to be doing something except a few Sundays. So you're talking every Sunday from about 11 to 2. And then every Monday night, they're up to senior citizens. And the kids are playing whist, they're playing LCR, they're watching Ricky dance. But they love dancing. And there's quite a few of them here today. It's not only those. I think I see Kathy there with Sydney. Yeah, it is Kathy. Okay, she's taking pictures. But people like her, they need help. Not only that, I think I seen Robin over here. Yeah, it is. That's Robin over there with hers. You know, some of the kids can't bowl. They're in wheelchairs. Some people, you got to help them make bigger bathrooms. You know, and I'm sure that if you pitch in $50, $100, then when you see these kids walking around, you say, thank God I gave them something. So that's all I can do is keep these girls going. They are doing one marvelous job. They know how to kiss and hold the girl, hug the kids or whatnot, like Laurie's hugging Mike there right now. And they do this incredible job. They need help. So it's up to you people to keep helping them. And it's a time for me. One guy I got to thank. He wanted to do this about 5 years ago. Kenny Ryan I heard a little whispering going on. I said, what the hell's going on? They're talking about this thing, and he said, Harry, I got the mayor. We want to run this name after you, and I begged them not to 5 years ago. But at my 85th birthday party, Mayor Wall said, we're going to name it after you. So anyways, I have to thank all you people for coming. Thank you for all your help to help these kids. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Harry. Is there anybody that he left out there? Raise your hand. I thought he was going to go house to house, all the people that he knew.
Pass the hat.
So that's the end of the speaking program. Harry, we love you. We adore you. And we admire you so much, and we don't know, as one of the great men in this town's history, we don't know what life would be without you. So with that, we're going to ask his family and some of the special kids folks to come up as we do the unveiling of the plaque that's going to hang on the bandstand. So thank you all for coming. We're going to unveil the plaque in a few minutes. Enjoy yourself and have a great day, everybody. Thank you very much.